to the 6-5 podcast. I am your host today, Daniel Newman, the founding partner and principal analyst at Futurum Research, joined by my always esteemed, super smart, smiley, and casual today co-host, Patrick Moorhead, the co-hostess with the mostest, Patrick Moorhead. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great today, Daniel. We had horizontal rain this afternoon and this morning, and I just said, I'm not going to walk 3 blocks down to work. I'm just not going to do that. So I'm here in my bunker and broadcasting to you very casually. And I am the founder and president of Moor Insights and Strategy. And I'm glad to be here, but I have to tell you, I do miss you being here in Austin. I really do.
Yeah, it was great to be there. It was funny. I was there almost all week, yet we did not manage to record, and we had to wait till I went home to record. But it works out well. Excited to do this. Friday is always the best day. It's always the best day to do a podcast, and it was nice to travel. It did take an N95 mask. It takes a little courage. The airport was a little busier than the last time I traveled. The highways are a little bit busier, so you're starting to feel a little bit of a turn. Of course, the condition still has a lot of impact on society, and let's hope for a cure or a vaccine or some return to normalcy for everyone's sake. Because goodness, Pat, when this happened in March, I would have thought by May, June, things would have been returning, and well, here we are, still doing this thing, still doing the COVID thing. But all is well, and tech, which is where we spend a lot of our time and energy, has really seen quite a boon as this has gone on. It's seen growth. It's seen explosion of growth. We've seen things like cloud and collaboration take over. We saw digital transformation, a decade of transformation transpire in what might have been 6 months. So it's not all bad. I mean, not for us, but for our whole economy. I look forward to getting back to eating out, back to traveling and seeing the world, going on vacation, taking time off, because for whatever reason, working from home is the worst when it comes to working less. But got a great show today. You excited?
I am super excited. And I love to do podcasts on Friday because I feel like I can kick back a little, let her rip a little bit. Maybe it's me going casual on Casual Friday. I don't know, but I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's do this.
All right, buddy. Well, remember, for everyone out there, all of you regular listeners, appreciate you, but I do have to say this. This show is for information and entertainment purposes only. And while we will be talking about a number of publicly traded tech companies and sometimes other companies, we are not providing any sort of investment advice. Do not buy, sell, or transact in the stock market in any way because of anything said by myself or Mr. Patrick Moorhead. And just remember, 6-5, 6 topics, roughly 5 minutes each. We don't always hit that number on the mark. And it's all about analysis. We try to take the news or take new products, technology stories, and get away from doing the, reporting and try to tell you what all this stuff means. And our first topic today is actually not so much news. And we don't do this a lot, Pat. But a few weeks ago, both of us got a massive box in our delivered to us from Cisco. And Cisco was so kind as to give us a Desk Pro, which is their new executive collaboration unit, and the company gave it to us to check out and try. And in the middle of COVID, as we've done our WebExing and our Microsoft Teaming and our 8x8ing and our Zooming and every other type of video call, we've been doing it on our desktop. We've been doing it on our desktop. In your case, your mega liquid cooled AMD desktop. In my case, a number of different laptops or my iMac desktop. And this Desk Pro really is the first time, at least for me, that I have an appliance now that's really usable every day. I do have a poly unit that I can use when I set it up with my rolling station, and that's pretty cool. But the Desk Pro is kind of like your everyday unit, Pat. And I want to talk about that a little bit on the 6-5 here, because with video becoming such a big part of our communications day in and day out, I was wondering how a 27-inch? Is that the size of the screen? Remind me.
That's right. Now it's a 27-inch 4K display to start off with.
4K. Dedicated video display with a touch screen that can be used as a monitor, but can also be discrete for just video. And Pat, I got to tell you, if you're an executive and you're using this device, I don't know that I could ever go back to desktop computer-based video. Not that that's not awesome when you're on the road and mobile, but I really had forgotten how good dedicated video appliances can be. And I think that's going to be a really hot thing moving into the future. What's your take on this one?
So it's interesting. Unlike you, I wasn't CEO of a UC company. But I have, over the past 30 years, used every instantiation of video device. I used to work for AT&T. Come on, so you can't blame me. So I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting kind of an inflexible device that didn't work into my work style. But I was absolutely floored at how much I like this. So first thing is classic WebEx capability. The video just looks better. When you and I connect to each other, it feels like you are just there. And I don't know if they've optimized the codecs between the devices. It's the 4K display. It's the 12 megapixel cameras. But it looks a whole lot better than doing it on even the highest performance PC like I have. And to be honest with you, I mean, just to be factual, I do have the highest performance computer that you can buy out there. There is no processor you can put in it that's higher performance. But the video quality of this, the audio quality is phenomenal. But the thing that threw me for a loop, Daniel, was that how well it integrates into my PC lifestyle, because it can operate not only as a 27-inch 4K WebEx appliance, but it also works as a 4K 27-inch display. And what happened is, you got to be a really good display to make it as my primary display, because I have four, right? I have an 8K TV behind me. I have a 4K Sony on the left. I have an Asus that will go parallel horizontal. And on the right, I had the Desk Pro. But I moved that sucker as my primary display to use. And when I make a call, it turns on and acts like the appliance. When I'm going throughout the rest of my day and I'm trying to get work done, it's a high quality 4K display. Pen's kind of cool too, which, by the way, I almost threw away until Cisco said, just to remind you, there's a pen. It's not very well highlighted in the packaging. But as you and I have done, we've collaborated with the pen. We've got our own whiteboard. When we're done collaborating, that artwork that we've done, that grand plan, gets copied into WebEx Teams, so we can use it, we can email it. So I'm not going to do the entire review here, but I was 10x more impressed than I thought I was going in. And every so often I'll find a little gem, a thing that I didn't expect, like I stand up and the camera moves up. That's kind of cool. But anyways, I'm going to be writing this up, and I'm sure you will, but more impressed than I thought I would be going in.
Yeah, Pat, I actually, as I sort of alluded to as I started off this one, very impressive. As someone that's been around video for a long time, used the Tandberg devices before Cisco had bought them out. This instantiation of this device is really high quality, very usable. And I really just enjoy the convenience. I will make one last comment. Because of the way WebEx works, when you register the device to the Expressway using your domain, using your email address, it instantly connects and it works with the app. So you can be on your app using WebEx Teams, and it can identify the WebEx, the Desk Pro, and you can literally make calls off your phone and move them over to the Desk Pro really seamlessly, or off your computer. And that ability for an executive to get something like this shipped to their house, not needing a lot of configuration and setup, and just turn it on, connect it, and have it configured, secure. There's a lot of value in that too. But like I said, with video on our desk and all of our other applications running concurrently, I've noticed distractions have gotten out of control. So I love the idea of running the device as in complete isolation of my computer. I turn away from my desk. It gives me that same focus as if you were like having coffee or lunch with someone. Doesn't mean we don't ever pick up our phone and look at our text messages, but it just means that we kind of get back to that more high quality human communication that we used to have when we were out in public. We weren't doing 15 tasks at a time. All right, buddy. Good stuff. Let's move on to the second topic. Big week in chips, Pat. Intel had its 11th generation core processor launched this week. Tiger Lake was the code name for a long time, but this baby is live. You and I both attended the event, but you had some extended briefings throughout the day and afterwards. So I'm going to let you take this one first, and I'll pile on when you're done.
Yeah, this was a long time coming. Daniel, you and I attended the Architecture Day a couple of weeks ago, and the next step here was to talk about the initial fruits of those labors, and that was Tiger Lake. So Tiger Lake, which is formerly known as, now it's officially the 11th gen core processor, was introduced, as well as a platform brand called Evo. And so overall, Intel really talked a lot about heterogeneous computing, the ability to leverage not just the CPU, but the CPU, the GPU, and also some of their fixed function AI capabilities. And while smartphones have done this for a long time, Daniel, you and I have been talking about this for probably a decade on the smartphone side, but on the PC side, it's a relatively new phenomenon. And that's because the smartphone does it because it has to, because it's smaller. It can't go as high in terms of power, but it's really nice to see the PC go in this direction. One of the key points that Intel was trying to make here was, hey, don't measure this based on the performance of some synthetic benchmark. Try to measure this based on workflows. Let's say a workflow using an Adobe product, editing video and transcoding video, adding things. And Intel showed how it optimized certain parts of this workload, hitting the CPU, the GPU, and the NPU, and for the industry not to use standard benchmarks. And I know why they're doing that. So first of all, it's true. I mean, almost 20 years ago, when I ran product marketing at AMD, I created this thing called the True Performance Initiative. So, which talked about, hey, don't use bad benchmarks to look at how it actually works with software. So I agree on its holistic point. The one important thing I want to stress is that Intel's degree of success in Tiger Lake and also in their Evo platform, which is their notebook platform targeted at what they're calling go-getters, kind of these thin and light mobile devices. Their success is going to be directly related to their ability to get the software optimized for their platform. Intel has a ton of money. They have the ability to do that. The question I have around is time. The other way to do this is to pour an incredible amount of money into marketing campaigns to educate the public. We saw them do this with Centrino. We saw them do this with MMX technology 20 years ago. We saw them do this with Ultrabooks, and to stave off the competitive pressure, because AMD is showing up with an 8-core, twice the cores at Intel's 4 cores. And if you run standard benchmarks on anything that's parallelized, like video encoding, and not doing it off of the NPU or leveraging the GPU, AMD is going to look really, really good. So we have a great fight on our hands. I'll leave it at that. Read my article on Forbes if you want to know a lot. I wrote a lot about it, about every element, including the portfolio brand Evo.
Absolutely. And we'll throw the links in the show notes, as always, to Pat's article. Pat, you give a lot of good perspective. My key takeaway is this: is Intel needed this. Intel had a rough couple of months, despite its very successful financial situation. It had been under a lot of pressure. The delays in 7 nanometer and process technology had definitely pushed a lot of negative press the company's way. Tiger Lake has been an exciting upgrade to the company's notebook and PC business, and here they are. The company was able to talk about increases in work productivity, significant increases for content creation, big improvements over its last generation, and it was able to tout some wins against AMD's Ryzen laptop chips. Now, of course, my fundamental belief here is that this is a multi-horse race at this point. You have Intel and AMD that are going to continue to push each other. And of course, you've got Nvidia in there on the graphics side, partnering up and competing in some ways, and continuing to help the OEMs build these powerful, useful laptops. And where we started with this Desk Pro thing, talking about work from home. With work from home, powerful, flexible, lightweight laptops and connected laptops, which is something that was also discussed at the launch with Project Athena, are going to be really important. And so Intel, per the usual, though, has the partners lined up, has the list of all the big partners. You got the Acers and Dells and HPs and Lenovo's and Samsungs and more, all signed up to use this 11th gen Intel Core processor in their lineup. And it's coming this year for Christmas. It's going to be out this year for the holidays. And so overall, a big day. The Evo platform provides, as you said, Pat, some interesting reliability and performance guarantees, as well as some software standardization and benchmark requirements. So overall, very solid launch. You made a bunch of great points. By the way, new logo. Don't have time to talk about that in full. They kind of dropped a brand launch right into the middle of this 11th gen launch. I think it looks good. I think, again, I liken it to, I'll make it simple. The new Intel is going to be an executing Intel. That's the way I see it. That's the time you drop the brand, is saying we're going to change the brand. We're going to start executing better, because that's been the only downside over the last couple of years, has been not what the company's promised, just being able to deliver it on time. So hopefully with the new brand comes new operational excellence. They've made big changes to the leadership. And so we'll see the next few quarters. We'll see if the new brand and the new chips, new promise of a new tomorrow for a company that's still very, very strong and has a lot to offer in this space. I'm going to jump ahead, Pat, to another topic. I want to talk about Amazon. And we got a little more chip talk, by the way, but we're going to give you a little break from chips, and then we'll come back to chips. Pat, you and I track Amazon not just as AWS, but we also track the company. And it's intriguing to us because Amazon is a big company, and unlike most of the tech clients that we advise, it has a whole giant e-commerce business. It's a massive ecosystem. The company in itself is an economy. It's a leader in a lot of ESG. And we've been watching what the company's doing because, frankly, I think you and I both agree that Amazon takes a lot of heat for the things it does, but it's a job creator. It's a disruptor. It's an innovator. The company's made big commitments through deploying electric vehicle fleets, and also in helping small businesses. And this week, the company made an announcement, Pat, that I thought was worth touching on. It spent, listen to this number, $18 billion this year is the amount that Amazon has spent to help grow small businesses. This company has massive impact, and it's a platform. Everybody, until I guess most recently, Pat, and I know you and I have spanked Apple a little bit about its App Store ecosystem, but a lot of people talk about how Apple is this enabler of all these software developers through its App Store. Well, in a lot of ways, I think what Amazon's doing that's really interesting is its marketplace is really becoming a footprint for companies to build practices and to build significant businesses. And so you and I both wrote about this. I'll make a couple of brief comments, and I'd like to have you, but just $18 billion in investment this year, working with more than 500,000 small businesses, onboarding another 100,000 small businesses. And the fact is planning to continue. And one of the things I saw that I really liked, and I'd love to get your comments on this, is its partners are growing. So it's investing and it's helping grow partners. It actually said that, while their partners are generally pretty small companies, they were starting at about 100,000 a year is what they were selling on Amazon. And this year they saw that jump by 60% to 160,000 on average. Their partners are selling it's over $3.4 billion in products, and they're making a lot of investments creating these training events and training days to educate, and then building all these tools that enable partners to grow at scale. Because here's the last thought here. We're not going to see retail ever go back to what it was. It won't. There will still be retail experience centers, but for small businesses and small retailers, a unit in the strip mall, which is what it used to be, might now be a storefront in Amazon in what it will be in the future. And by the way, there was an intermediary there with like the likes of eBay, but nobody was so critical of that. But Amazon's kind of modernizing that experience. And I think it's doing a really good job, Pat. I thought it was worth pointing out because it is tech. At the core of it, it's using tech, using a platform, and delivering a lot of value to help SMBs grow.
Yeah, Daniel, I like this conversation because I like to wade in when I think something is out of proportion in the way that the talking points are versus what's actually going on. And while Amazon is this incredibly successful company whose CEO is the richest man on the planet, they get a tremendous amount of over scrutiny. I think primarily because there's this notion that success is bad, and because of how addicted us consumers have gotten on Amazon, it has put some people out of business, or it has hurt their business model. I mean, I remember what it was like to buy products 20 years ago online before Amazon came on and made everything frictionless. And look at where we are today. It's raised the entire consumer experience up. Part of some of the negative dialogue, like you said, was that Amazon was potentially undercutting its sellers. And there's this notion that it's using all of their data to undercut them. And I like that Amazon is finally talking about what it does in a positive way through their sellers, because honestly, the press wasn't talking about any of this. And sometimes as a company, you just have to take the stand.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. And the press is going to have to talk about it if Amazon keeps doing it. And you know, Pat, competition is tough. So you can partner with the best or you can try to fight it. And all I can say is that if I was a retailer, I would be very strongly considering the ecosystem that Amazon is creating. I'm not saying that this should be your only path. I'm just saying if you're a smaller retailer or an online seller, you have to recognize behavior and you have to look at gravity. And I think the gravity here is Amazon could just be, they could just be obtuse about this and just smash businesses. But I actually think the fact that they're investing so significantly, they're focusing on saying, how do we enable them? I mean, how do we help in a world where everyone's coming in our direction or in the direction of companies like us? Let's enable small businesses. Let's create a bigger ecosystem. Let's make a larger pie. So, I'm bullish on it. I like ESG and I like when big companies give back. Big companies are big companies, and success shouldn't be scrutinized in a capitalist America. But at the same time, I like when there's some giving back to helping smaller companies like, companies like us, Pat. We grow our company. So anyways, let's jump back to chips because I want to talk about BF GPUs and whatnot. But you and I also attended another launch this week for Nvidia, the RTX 30 series. This was a big launch. I wrote a piece that was headlined "Gamers Rejoice," and you wrote an even better piece that talks about the bigger, better, faster, and more powerful Nvidia RTX 30. Kick this one off.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Daniel, for the setup there. So every year, Nvidia and AMD bring out new graphics cards. About every 2 years, it's new architecture. And while Ampere was already brought out with the A100 from Nvidia, that was a data center product, this is Ampere for the gamers. And Nvidia brought it. I mean, not only did they launch a high-end card and one notch below that, 3080 and the 3070, they brought out the BF GPU, which was the 3090, which is a triple card slot, versus the dual card slot of the 3080. And essentially, NVIDIA talked about a 2x performance per watt improvement, even bigger improvements to, I'll call them gaming special effects, like ray tracing and DLSS. And both of the ray tracing and DLSS are fixed function processing that goes on the games to essentially make them look better. And DLSS is a way to use AI to make lower resolution graphics look like higher resolution graphics. So, and ray tracing is all about lighting and making it realistic. The third, until we see what AMD has brought out, it looks like NVIDIA has locked up the high end again. But again, NVIDIA, I think everybody's expecting AMD to bring out something at the end of the year, and we're going to see what happens. The other thing I really liked is that NVIDIA was focused on the experience, okay, which means essentially making experiences more sticky than they were without NVIDIA. And as we know, and this is true in almost any industry, the stickier you make something, you don't have to have the highest performance or the lowest cost everything all the time. People just get used to using you. And two of the things that NVIDIA brought out was a full toolkit for what's called machinima, which is making videos, cool videos you can post, send to your friends or through YouTube that look like movies out of their toolkit. And the second one was voice and video, which is to not only remove keyboard clickety-clack noises when you're playing your best favorite first-person shooter, and you want to talk to your friends, not hear their clickety-clack keyboards, which gamers love. They up that to video, which is let's have a cool background. Let's have a branded background if you're trying to make money on YouTube, or if you live in your parents' basement and you don't want people to know that you live in your parents' basement, or there's something that's embarrassing in the background, you can blur it out and you can move around and your camera will follow you, all leveraging the AI and programmable capabilities of the new card. So net, I think that they made a good showing, not only by under what I would call the classic measurements, which is benchmarks in a game. They added more incremental features to differentiate itself through ray tracing and AI. It added additional stickier applications to suck you in even more. Heck, even when you're not playing games, if you think about NVIDIA voice and video, this is a company that's just on the move, Daniel. I mean, whether it's data center or gaming, the company's just doing great.
Yeah, it's been an explosive year. And had it not been for the crazy pullbacks in the stock this week, the price of their stock had been just off the charts. So people had clearly recognized how well NVIDIA was doing. I tended to think, Pat, I love what you mentioned about some of the additional periphery capabilities. I saw the demos of the keyboard and the typing and how distracting that is, and how the technology basically using their platform was able to eliminate that, the background blurring. And I mean, that's smart, because you think about things like Twitch right now and how big that's getting and how important that is to the gaming community.
Yeah.
And I said, wow. And by the way, Pat, with a lot of the video conferencing we're doing, I'm thinking that technology could find its way into some of these collaboration tools that we are using on the regular. Otherwise, I just have to say I was super impressed. I've been Ampere bullish since it came out. I focus more on data center than gaming. I'm a FIFA gamer. I'm a sports guy, but Ampere is just very impressive. The scale, the footprint, the ability to break it down and put it into these smaller GPUs. By the way, the BF GPU. What does the BF stand for again? Because it's not what you think it is. It's I forget what it's short for, but
I just know what it I'm visualizing in my mind, and I don't think I can say it
That's what I'm thinking too, but I think it actually does stand for something. I was just trying to remember what it was. But it's a big fat GPU. It's actually quite large. You need a big desktop to run it. But no, I mean, Nvidia is just on a tear. It was a really solid launch for the company. The Twitterverse was crazy. It was going crazy. And Pat, I think your Forbes piece got like 40,000 reads. So people were definitely paying attention not only to Nvidia, but what you, Mr. Moorhead, had to say about it. So, all right, man, let's jump on to topic number 5. Let's get back to one of the other things we love to do, and that's earnings. Now, we do a lot of big earnings where we'll talk about the Amazons and Apples, but there's a lot of companies out there that are really interesting that we work with and advise. Another company that had earnings this week is Cloudera. And we've talked about Cloudera a little bit here and there on the show, but Cloudera basically is in the big data, Hadoop, data warehousing space. And it's been a company that, Pat, you and I both been tracking pretty closely, watching for the company to break out. It's had some rumors of being a possible acquisition target for some of the big tech players. And so the company did report this quarter. And it was a solid quarter for the company. Tech has gotten into this weird thing. There seems to be outstanding blowaway quarters, and then everything else is just kind of blurred together. The company grew its revenue 9%. It was able to deliver 10 cents a share, which is an improvement year over year. The company, its recurring revenue is tracking closer and closer to $1 billion as it's hit almost $740 million. It's seeing its subscriptions grow, but also really the big notes of the quarter and my takeaways were, one, it got its Cloudera data platforms out, private and public. And essentially the private is going to be the extension that allows the hybrid cloud to tap into the open source data warehousing and big data platform that is Cloudera. The public cloud is basically the company went GA with its marketplace offering on AWS, and that will continue to expand out into other clouds. And those are two big areas, because essentially what companies are up against is how do we tap into all the data? How do we get this full data lifecycle where we can tap into all of it ubiquitously across all the applications? And that's really what Cloudera is enabling. And that's why most of the biggest companies in the Fortune are using Cloudera. But the question is, as the rise of the Redshifts, the rise of the Google BigQuery, the rise of all these different tools that are out there, how does Cloudera stay relevant? And so it's staying relevant by staying, price. It's price efficient for companies to use it. It's, again, it's hybrid in the sense that it can connect to all these other platforms seamlessly and ubiquitously, and their customers are rewarding them. So they are up over 1,000 customers now that are spending over $100K a year with the company, and they're up to $172 million customers now. So they have 172 customers spending over $1 million, and they've grown that by 25%, Pat, which is something I was looking at, and I'm saying this is really important because right now, when you're a company that's not named Microsoft, Amazon, or Google, and then I'd say IBM and Oracle in the cloud, and you're trying to compete in the cloud, you need to be showing growth, you need to become dependable, and you need the big enterprise customers to be using your platform and married to the platform. Another thing that the company saw too was a big uptick in free customers, the customers that are using the limited functionality of Cloudera at no cost are upgrading to paid subscriptions. So that's another big conversion for the company that I'm looking at. But overall, again, it's a very technical product and service, but you hear all the time about data and how companies are using data. Well, at the backbone of it, you got to have all your data organized, and it has to all be in a format that can be utilized and managed and embraced by your CRMs and ERPs and different business intelligence and visualization tools. And Cloudera is in the background and playing a pretty big role in this, Pat. And so the company was rewarded with a solid quarter. Last note on this is, I think $1 billion is really the number the company needs to be striving for. How does it get to $1 billion in recurring revenue? I just think at that $1 billion number, it's going to start to really see it break out.
Yeah, Daniel, you hit it pretty comprehensively. I think you may have sucked all the oxygen out of this topic. So no, it's good. You know this really well. The one thing I want to add here is one of the reasons why you're not seeing triple-digit growth out of this company right now is because it's a very large ongoing concern who started with on-prem software, who has recently expanded in terms of its cloud capabilities. The key here, though, is the big differentiator about Cloudera is that it focuses on the entire data lifecycle. It's not, we might hear about companies like Snowflake in the news, but Snowflake only hits one part of the data lifecycle, data warehousing. Well, there's 4 or 5 steps that are required. And particularly when you're a regulated industry, but I don't want to limit it that, because anybody who's under GDPR or any of the California or New York data privacy laws needs to know where their data is and what's going on. And this is a company that I think has a lot of legs. It just built out its cloud capabilities with CDP and provides this secure and private environment that the top companies today who are doing most of their computing on-prem rely on.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And sorry about sucking all that oxygen. You know me, when I get on a roll talking about earnings, I just, for everybody out there, you've probably heard me enough do this. But Pat, you did make a great point about compliance and regulatory industries. That's something Cloudera has really wrapped its arms around and has done a really good job of differentiating around. And that's something that is not easy to do. So let's jump on the last topic, Pat. You wrote a great article about you were talking about Samsung and what they're doing and with Galaxy right now, and product after product keeps rolling out. You've been kicking out that Fold, the Note, the S20, but you had some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, and by the way, I just noticed I put the wrong link in the show notes. You handled that really well.
Thanks, buddy.
My apologies. No, so Daniel, I know you got to unpack yours, but the second generation of the Galaxy Fold came out, and I wrote about it up front, but it was the reviews that are going on right now. And I just thought, for the sake of this audience, instead of talking about the Fold as a review, as you'll hit 1,000 times, I want to talk about their segmentation, because it's funny. And I don't know exactly where this comes from, but a lot of people I see complaining that Samsung has too many products, okay? Because they have the A, they have the Z Fold, they have the Ultra, and they have the Note. And what I wanted to do was really talk about why the company's segmentation makes sense. And my premise is that in mature markets, even technology products or services get more mature, you sub-segment to better meet the individual needs of those customers, as well as being more profitable, because you're not putting a bunch of superfluous features into every part in every one of your product lines that not everybody is going to benefit from. And I went product by product down there. But the key point here is really about why this works, and the fact that we see it in things like cars that have segmentation, not only around the form factor, the difference between a minivan and a coupe and a 4-door sedan, but also in terms of levels. I mean, BMW 3, 5, 7, 9 series as an example. The 3 series doesn't have every bell and whistle that the 9 series, because the 9 series is for people who want to spend more money. They typically want higher performance, and there's higher room. So if I look at, let's say, the S series, this is the mainstream line, okay? If you look at the A series, this is the entry level line. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the S series. The packaging is not as nice. It might have as many camera lenses, but the quality of the pictures is not going to be as good. And the quality of the screen isn't going to be as good. You're not going to get 120 hertz in the A series, where you're going to get that option on the S series. Z series is pretty easy. It's all about folding. You got the small one, you got the big one like I showed you. And then the Note series is all about the pen. Sure, it shares a lot of features that the S20 Ultra has, but it doesn't have the pen. And everything about that phone is geared around that pen. So, Daniel, hopefully I've made a convincing effort on this front to quit dissing Samsung just because it doesn't do things like Apple.
Yeah, I think you did a nice job, Pat. The one thing that I would call out there is you're clearly more of a phone guy than a car guy, because there's no such thing as a BMW 9 Series right now. But there's an 8
There used to be.
Yeah,
there used to be a 9 Series.
And I'm only pointing that out because, well, I'm not as good of a phone guy as you. I am a total car head. So as you were saying that, and someone that's driven BMWs for a long time, I was thinking, I want the next 9 Series. But in all seriousness, look, I've got an S20 5G, the kind of the smallest model. I've got the Note 10, the Note 20, the Note 20S, but I've also used the J and the A series. And I've always been very impressed by the fact that Samsung, because if you look at how it's won in places like Europe and Asia, it didn't win on the premium tier alone. It won on the fact that it had such great segmentation. And this is something that Apple has done, I would say, only okay at. Apple has come out with some base level phones kind of at times for its iPhone series. And then it seems to be non-committal because, let's face it, Apple likes selling you a $1,400, $1,500 phone that it pays $8 to build. I'm making that up. Please don't hold me to that. But Samsung has just done a great job of building a very comprehensive product line. And by the way, like you said, the segmentation does offer some feature creep down and up, but even at that A and J series, you're still getting a really good quality touch device that has most of all the same experiences, like you said, with just some ratcheted down electronics that, you know, kind of help you have a reason to push up, like if you really love taking photos. But yeah,
Samsung's got to be competitive in every market. They have to compete with the low name or no name Chinese companies that are moving into Western Europe. They have to compete with Apple at the high end, and they're not going to compete with Apple just with the Ultra, right? And a lot of the data that I've seen is most of the users of the Z series, the foldables, they were ex-Apple people. How about that? And I just love that. So it just says to me, you need to get people off of Apple. You need to have literally swing you around the room differentiation. And that's what Samsung has been able to do with their now 3 foldable phones. And they've got to have a Street Fighter. They can't, because they know people at the lower end want to know that you can have you have to have 4 camera lenses, and that's what they're looking for. They buy in the number of lenses, and that's what they do. Now, is the quality of those pictures as good or better than, let's say, a Xiaomi? Yeah, it is. But it is as good as the quality of the S20 Ultra pictures? No, it's not. And that makes a lot of sense because they don't have to pour as much cost into those lower price devices.
Absolutely. And Pat, with that, I'm going to wrap this show up. We talk too much. It's going to have to become the 6-7 pretty soon because we don't get anything done in 5 minutes anymore. But hopefully you're stuck with us out there because we do have a lot to analyze, a lot of news. We like to go deep, and we'd like to make sure our audience doesn't just get the superficial stuff, but really gets the insider stuff. So if we've gone on a little too long, we apologize, but we love our audience and we love our tech. So we're going to keep talking until whatever's on our mind comes out. That's why I don't stop anything at 5 minutes. But anyways, for all you out there that enjoyed the show, please hit that subscribe button. Stick with us. Join us on Twitter. Send negative comments if you have any to Pat and positives to me. You know where it's at. Check out the show notes. We put a lot of time into these articles. We love when you guys connect and read and stay tuned with what we're doing. But for this episode, for now, for Patrick, for Daniel, for the 6-5, got to say goodbye. See you later. We'll miss you. Till next time, which will be really soon. Bye-bye.